I watched her hand 3 strangers, a glossy brochure with my lake splashed across the cover, my lake, my deed, my land. And 3 days later, I locked the gate and called the cops, because by the time a judge finished reading her sentence, she finally learned something she should have known from the start. You can't sell what isn't yours. I pulled into my driveway that Sunday morning expecting silence. The kind of silence you only get when you're 15 acres away from anyone who thinks they get a vote in your life. I bought this place back in the late 90s for that exact reason. No traffic noise, no neighbors peering over fences. Just trees, water, and the quiet slap of waves against my dock when the wind picks up. I'd checked the paperwork twice before I ever signed anything. The HOA covenant stopped clean at my property line. I even hired a surveyor to walk every inch with me, pounding iron stakes into red clay like punctuation marks. He'd looked me straight in the eye and said, "This lake is yours, nobody else's." I believed him then. I still believed him that morning. But the moment I rounded the bend toward the water, my stomach dropped. There was a brand-new chain-link fence stretched across the access road posts, sunk into concrete so fresh it still looked damp. A padlock gleamed in the sun. Zip-tied to the fence was a sign that read, "Private Property, HOA Managed." I sat there with the engine idling, staring at it, waiting for my brain to correct the image like a glitch. It didn't. The fence stayed. The sign stayed. And beyond it, down by the shoreline, I saw people. 4 of them. 3 strangers in business casual clothes and 1 woman I recognized instantly. Bryn Ashford, HOA president. Mid-40s blonde bob navy blazer that probably cost more than my annual dues. The kind of person who sends violation notices if your mailbox is the wrong shade of black. I'd seen her twice in 3 years, always smiling that tight, rehearsed smile that never reaches the eyes. Now she stood on my shoreline, gesturing toward the water like a realtor showing off a mansion. I got out of the truck and walked closer, boots crunching gravel loud enough that she glanced up. For half a second her smile faltered. Then it snapped right back into place, sharper than before. She said something to her little group, laughed, and started walking toward me, heels clicking like a countdown. "Mr. Wade," she said, voice syrupy. "Good morning. I didn't expect to see you today." I didn't return the smile. "What's going on here?" She tilted her head like I was a child asking an obvious question. "Oh, this is just temporary infrastructure. We're organizing community tours of the amenities. Your lake is such a valuable resource." "My lake?" I felt my jaw tighten. "That lake is on my property." She laughed. Actually laughed. Light dismissive. "Well, that's a bit of a gray area, isn't it? Natural water features are often considered shared resources in covenant communities. The HOA has a responsibility to manage these assets." Gray area. The words made my teeth ache. There was no gray area. There was a deed. There was a survey. There was the law. But she stood there confident as a queen, telling me up was down. "Show me the deed," I said. "Show me anything that says you own this." Her smile finally cracked. "Not much. Just enough. Mr. Wade, I don't think you understand how community governance works. I understand property law," I cut in, "and I have a recorded deed that says this land is mine." The warmth drained from her face like someone flipped a switch. "We'll be issuing a formal notice," she said, voice dropping. "There will be management fees, $15,000 annually for lake access infrastructure." She pulled a folded paper from her blazer and held it through the fence. I didn't take it. She dropped it at my feet instead, turned on her heel, and walked back toward her group. I watched her shake hands, pass out glossy brochures, laugh like she'd just closed a deal. Then they climbed into a black SUV and drove away without another glance. I stood there alone, the fence humming softly in the breeze. I picked up the paper. Official HOA letterhead. Notice of asset reclassification. My name misspelled. No legal citations. Just bureaucratic language and a number. $15,000 to use my own property. For a moment I just stood there. And I'll be honest, this was the part nobody likes to admit. I doubted myself. I wondered if I'd missed something. Some clause buried in fine print. Some loophole she knew about and I didn't. HOA boards have lawyers. They have time. They have money. and I was just one guy standing in front of a fence that shouldn't exist. That doubt sat heavy in my chest, the kind that makes you think maybe it's easier to give up, pay the fee, let it go, move on. I remember sitting in my truck afterward, hands on the steering wheel staring at nothing, thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if I fight this and lose everything? Then something else crept in. Colder, sharper. Anger, yes, but also clarity. Because even if I were wrong, this wasn't how the law worked. And stupid actions leave trails. I remembered the camera. I'd installed it months earlier after someone kept dumping trash near my dock. A small weatherproof thing hidden in an oak tree, motion-activated, quietly recording everything. I checked the footage when I got home. There she was, Bryn Ashford, on my land, conducting what looked a lot like a sales pitch, pointing, smiling, handing out brochures with my lake on the cover. That was the moment the doubt snapped. Not vanished, snapped. Because doubt can coexist with resolve. I didn't touch the fence, didn't cut the lock. I walked the perimeter instead, taking photos, tire tracks, footprints, a brochure someone dropped near the road. I picked it up with a tissue-like evidence and slid it onto the passenger seat. Back home, I opened the safe. The real one. Not the little bedside box, but the fireproof cabinet where I keep the documents that matter. Deed on top, survey underneath. I spread them across my desk and read every word like it was new, including all water features. There it was, black ink on cream paper, stamped and recorded decades ago. I called my old real estate attorney. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. They don't have a case, she said. What they're doing is trespass. If they're selling access, it's fraud. Hearing that felt like oxygen. Validation. I wasn't crazy. But instead of firing off a cease and desist, I waited. Something about this felt bigger than a power trip. Those brochures weren't cheap. Those strangers weren't casual visitors. Over the next few days, I watched. Through the camera. Another tour. Then another. Different faces. Same pitch. I logged everything. Dates, times, how long they stayed, what they carried. Evidence doesn't mean much if you don't organize it. Then I found the email. A special HOA meeting scheduled to vote on boundary expansion and community asset acquisition. My lake. 10 days out. They were going to try to vote my property into existence as theirs. That night, sitting alone at my desk, the doubt came back. Harder this time. I stared at the screen thinking about legal fees, court dates, years of stress. I wondered if I had the energy for this, if it was worth it. I remember thinking, maybe she's right. Maybe she'll wear me down. And then I noticed a line on one of the brochures I hadn't read closely enough. Managed by Lakeview HA LLC, not the HOA, an LLC. That changed everything. A quick search pulled up the registration. Bryn Ashford, president, her husband, treasurer, another board member. A private company formed months earlier listed as real estate development. Development, not management. The picture came together fast after that. HOA funds approved for vague amenity expansion. Deposits taken from prospective buyers. Promises made contingent on a vote that had no legal standing. I even caught a recorded conversation clear as day where she talked about commissions and settling with the owner if I noticed. I noticed. The night before the meeting I slept maybe an hour. Not from fear exactly, more like adrenaline, the kind that hums under your skin when you know tomorrow changes everything. The community center was packed. More people than I'd ever seen at an HOA meeting. Bryn sat at the front shuffling papers, smiling that brittle smile. When she started talking about shared resources and benefits to the community, I felt something in me go very still. She gave me 5 minutes. I walked to the front with my laptop and asked for the projector. The first slide was my deed, zoomed in on the legal description. The room went quiet. The next slide showed the survey, the boundary line, clear as daylight. Then the brochure. Gasps rippled through the chairs. The email confirming a $25,000 deposit. Murmurs turned to anger. Bryn stood up shouting about defamation, about context. Her voice cracked. I didn't raise mine. I didn't need to. I just kept clicking. The LLC registration, the budget line, the payments to her husband's company. Each slide another nail. By the time I finished, nobody was looking at me anymore. They were staring at her. The vote to remove the board passed in minutes. No speeches, no debate, just hands in the air. Bryn gathered her papers with shaking hands and walked out without saying a word. The rest happened fast after that. Investigations, charges, courtrooms that smell like old wood and coffee, a judge who didn't buy the misunderstanding defense. Fraud is fraud even when you dress it up in HOA language. When the sentence was read, I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished, like a weight I'd been carrying without realizing it was finally set down. A week later, I walked down to the lake again. The fence was gone, the gate removed, the water was still reflecting the trees like nothing had ever happened. I stood there for a long time, hands in my pockets, listening to the quiet I'd fought for. Because the lesson wasn't about winning. It was about this power only works when people don't question it, and the moment you do it starts to crumble.